about how you ended up getting that role. It's one of my favorite of any type of casting stories ever told.
Yeah, that was kind of, I did it as a joke a little bit, but we were working on episode 3, and that was, Grievous was the new character. There's an image where we released of him on the Star Wars Insider magazine, which I have at my table. It's like a little headshot of Grievous, and I remember thinking like, wow, that's a creepy character. Like, who are we gonna get to voice that? And so we came up with how we wanted the character to sound from a technical standpoint, because his voice was going to be synthesized through a box. It was supposed to, like, in the character himself was going to have a voice synthesizer, and it was going to come out of that little skull face he's got. And so we wanted to come up with, I would take all the auditions, so we had the 50 auditions come in, and George came in with me, and we sat down and we went through, like, this is what it's going to sound like coming through the box. So once we had the box filter, it was just a series of filters that kind of made it sound like, you know, when you talk on a telephone to somebody, it sounds a little bit limited. So it was going to have that filter on it. So I was, you know, egalitarianly putting that on every single audition the same way. And he was like, I think I like that one, sort of, and maybe that one, and maybe that one. No, nothing's working. So he really didn't get it. So we're going to have to put out another casting package. We went through another 20 people, and he didn't like it. And then we got down to about 5 that he liked. We re-brought them back into the studio again and did it, and still didn't get what he wanted. So the producer, Rick, was freaking out at that point. He was like, you know, ILM, Industrial Light and Magic, needs to finish the animation, because the voice predicates how the head's gonna move and the shoulders. And, you know, they had the basic structure of the body laid out, and they had on set, they would have, for the stunt scenes, they did have a stuntman with all the little ping pong balls doing the mocap and all that, but no one did the voice. And so the last group of auditions we did, my buddy Chris was just saying, you've listened to every single thing he's liked and not liked, why don't you do one? I'm like, I can't do that. He knows me, I'm not gonna do it. He's like, no, just do one. So I went into my studio, recorded an audition, and then I put it in under another name. I just put it in under another name. So
you had to be scared.
I did it. Get busted on. I mainly did it for because Chris was, you know, my coworker that I know and respect. I've loved him forever, and it was like worked with him forever, and I just did it for him because he kept bugging me like, just do it. You can do it. You can do this. And so. And he's like, before I sent the auditions out, he said, did you put yours in? I said, yeah, I put it in there. And then I didn't hear anything back. I sent the auditions up, and I put them all under the names of the actors with their initials, and I put all the files in and gave them to George up in his picture editing machine, and he was able to cut them all in. And then about a week later, I'm at the lunchroom, and the producer comes up to me, and he's like, hey, Matt, you know, George picked somebody. He's got it. He's got the voice he wants. Oh, cool. He's like, he likes AS. I said, okay, great. You know, so I'll go back to the studio, and I went and looked at my key, and I was like going down the list of all the actors, and there was no AS. I was like, there's no AS on here. And that's when I started to get freaked out, because I'm like, oh no, I didn't, you know, organize it correctly, and I don't know which actor is which, and I went through it again, double checked all the lists. There's nobody named AS. And then I was like, oh man, it's me, you know. And I was like, and that's when I like big sweaty palms. And that's when I thought like I was going to get in trouble for sure. And so the next day, so I avoided calling anybody. And the next day, I saw the producer at lunch again. And he's like, hey, dude, why didn't you call me back? Like, where's the actor? And I'm like, Rick, I have something to tell you. That audition is me. He's like, well, what do you want me to do? And I said, you should just tell him, just tell the boy, you know. And that was on like a Thursday, and I get the call. I go back to my desk and the phone rings. He's like, hey man, it's George. You know, so I hear you're Grievous. I was like, yeah. I was like, well, okay, I'm coming down tomorrow. We're gonna record it. And I was like, okay. So he came in on the Friday, and we went through the whole movie. And I think he liked it because then he could change all the lines he ever wanted, and I was just there at the ranch. And I remember thinking, like, this is not really happening. And I kind of just put it like, this is not a real thing that's happening right now. It's just, I think that he's going to put my voice in there as a filler, and then we'll, you know. And then we were still mixing the movie, and because the post-production of a film can take like a year, some of these Star Wars films. So I was working on this film for a while. We get down to the final mix, where we've got all the elements, all the sound effects, John Williams' music's being put in there, ILM's finishing all the visual effects, we've got all the recordings I've done of all the other actors, and everything that's all put in there. So we start final mixing the movie, we start print mastering the movie. Now we're to the point where I'm like, okay, if we want to take my voice out now, it's going to cost money. Like at this point, we've gone too far. We've sent it to the lab, but it's being foreign referenced for all the international things. So I'm like, okay, I think I can finally tell somebody in my family now, because George would have to spend money to take me out of the movie. And so I did, like maybe a week before the movie came out, I told my parents, like, I think I'm going to be in the movie. You know? So that's when it all became real. And George said to me, he's like, it's going to change your life. And for me, it was like, well, I already worked for your company. Like, this is my dream job. It's already happened. I don't think that anything else could change. But it did. I mean, it gave me coming to conventions, and it opened up a lot of doors in my acting, my voice acting, you know. And it's and then being part of the prequels has been really special, especially now, when folks that saw that movie, maybe if they were 7 years old when they saw that movie, they're in their 20s now, and I get to meet people, and they come up to me and they say, I love that film when I was a kid, you know, and that's how I felt working on Star Wars, you know, when I was a kid.
Yeah, I remember us meeting at Celebration 3 in 2005, and just kind of, you know, I could see that you were excited, but you were also kind of a little overwhelmed, because it was just such a big next step, you know, for you in your career.
Yeah, that was my first experience with, you know, there was a, hey, do you want to come to this celebration thing? And it was before the movie came out. I was like, sure, I'll go, and I can talk about sound or something. I always wanted to see, and I'm like, you mean you're going to pay my plane ticket? I can go, you know? So I went, and then there was, thousands of people in line for an autograph that were, it just never, the entire 5 days or whatever, 4 days, there was never a break in the line, and it was a little bit much, but it was good. I mean, it's a very, there's been a lot of, it's a very humbling experience. There's been a lot of fun experiences along the way.
And I'm sure it was really gratifying too, the fact that the character was able to live on in the animated series, you know, because you probably thought at the time, you know, this is going to be like a one and done thing. I'm going to do this for this movie, I'm never going to do it again. And then you got to do it a lot more after that, and that had to be fun.
Yeah, having Dave Filoni, who's the director of Clone Wars, he came on to the film. So we finished the Revenge of the Sith, and George, just a certain level of relief came over him. I could see he just was really calm that we'd finished Star Wars, and I think he felt really good about it. And he started tinkering with animation. You know, there was this successful Gendy Tartakovsky show that we licensed the Clone Wars characters to, and there was some really positive response for that. And George was like, well, let's do a Lucasfilm animation version of it. So we started working on that. And George came to me and my colleague David, and he said, you guys want to work on the show? We're going to do we'll do like 6 episodes and see how it goes. And then we'll all hand it off to everybody else. I'll do like 6 episodes, and then we can just train another crew. And then cut to, 5 years later, we've done 120 episodes, and we all worked on every single one, George included, because we just loved it so much. And Dave Filoni was a huge fan of Star Wars as a kid as well, and knew the characters backwards and forwards, and just gave us lots of opportunity. I mean, it was just a very small group of us on that show. I think I had 3 people on the sound crew, and a lot of the characters I played didn't have mouths, like the battle droids or Grievous, so Filoni would let us change lines and cater it, because we would do the recordings about a year before the final animation was finished. So by the time the final animation is done, I'd be watching the show and say, oh, I could put a little joke here, or I could have the battle droid say something here, and they didn't have to reanimate because there was no mouth on the character. So that was always fun. But yeah, having that timeline come back and Grievous and all those, I mean, it was a dream. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. All right, I know you guys have to have some questions. Who would like to kick off our audience questions? We'll start with you right here, sir.